Catflap Chats, episode 49. Pleased to have with me recent double European and Premiership winner, club captain of Exeter Chiefs, Mr. Jack Yeandle. How are you, pal?
Very well, thank you for having me.
I feel like after I do that, it should be like some sort of fanfare or something, like some clapping or fucking...
There's no fans, got used to it.
I know, fucking, yeah, you're used to it. It's fucking weird, mate. So if people listen to this, it's Saturday night, just finished watching the England game, and then the Wales game before that, and there's no atmosphere at all. It's fucking strange.
It's even weirder playing in it.
Is it really weird? Like, did it take a while to get used to?
After kind of like, what was our first game? Tigers was our first game, but we did like an internal game before that anyway.
Yeah.
It was weird at first, but then you almost like, you just have to create the buzz a bit more with the lads. So like on the pitch, boys would be like Genie each other a lot more. And then particularly like if you're on the bench, like I am all the time. You just got to make sure you're giving a bit of chat off the bench as well, like celebrating penalty wins and stuff like that. But it does make a hell of a difference.
Do you feel more conscious because more people can hear you what you're saying?
No. In fact, if anything, it's probably, if you think about it, when we had like midweek games, when it was all congested up, it's probably easier for boys coming through to make their debuts because there's like less pressure in a way. Like obviously you've got the peer pressure on the pitch, but compared to having a stadium full of people where you can barely hear and the atmosphere can get on top of you, it's probably a better way for the young lads to come and make their debuts. So it was, I don't know, don't get me wrong, I would have much preferred to do it all in front of fans, particularly like winning those two finals. They would have been absolutely insane. They would have been ridiculous. It's just, can't wait to have fans back, basically.
Yeah, it's a stranger's round. I'm just going to crack open a beer, pal. You got anything? So you've sobered up then after this week?
It's in the fridge, to be honest. It's in the fridge. It's out the room. I should have foreplanned that, shouldn't I?
Go and get one now, quickly. Go on. I've got a tiny rebel, like a passion fruit lager.
Always got a bottle opener.
Good man, always ready, tour ready. That's the way we like it. What has, cheers, boy. Thanks for coming on. Congratulations, mate. It's been obviously a wild couple of weeks, but a wild season as well. What's the last couple of weeks been like?
Pretty mental, to be fair. It was weird, like the Prem final was almost like a relief. Which was just strange because you've just done a double, but like winning Europe was insane. Like the buzz after that was ridiculous.
Yeah.
To achieve something so big was absolutely crazy, and like the genuine like euphoria post that. We were in the change room for ages with having beers in there, like pictures with the lads.
Yeah.
And then following up with the Wasps final, which was absolutely rubbish final. The weather completely ruined it. It was just such a relief, just to be like, oh my god, because we obviously had that opportunity to do the double.
Yeah.
And it's so rare that you go like final into a final. That's such a difficult challenge to do in terms of like, physically, like boys were rolling on a Monday. We did minimal training. It was like token, come in, get yourself moving. I think like we did a bit of football. It was like optional gym.
Yeah.
The boys in pieces, and then like the Wasp game, like I said, was just such a oh wow, we've done it. And obviously like the emotion and came flooding up from quite a few lads, and particularly like boys leaving and stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's for me a bit is like the relief, the kind of relief and joy of oh wow, we've done it, and then also like oh god, there's some like big names and decent lads moving on.
You feel pressure kind of going into that more so than normal because of the couple of obviously finals with Sarries and your relationship with them over the last sort of 5 years or whatever, and you guys came top a few times, didn't quite get there. Did you feel more pressure going into this?
Uh, there was ultimately pressure like straight away as soon as the whole Saracens thing came out. Like you read anywhere in the media and anything that everyone says, like, "Oh, you boys are doing it. I think you'll do it." So there was that kind of mounted pressure straight away, but we almost put pressure on ourselves because from early doors this season we've spoke about as boys in the change room about doing a double, like going after trophies. We want to win things, and I think whether that's we've used like the pain of losing finals, or whether I think over the last kind of 3 or 4 years we've realised with like big European performances we're an actual threat, we're a genuine threat, and we've pieced it together well this year and showed it. And I think kind of the big one this year was getting that first group game, La Rochelle away, when we won that one.
Yeah.
Like, because they were flying and their fans were going absolutely bonkers. Like the atmosphere there was ridiculous, and to beat them away, that was a hell of a scalp. That kind of set us on in a really good path to the trophy.
You mentioned just now about the guys. Obviously, you're moving on. And, Dolly and there's a couple of others. Stevenson, is he finished now?
Yeah.
Yeah. Were you able to do anything with them? Were you able to make the most of winning a couple of finals? Or maybe not the first one, but definitely that second one. I assume you guys in a bubble.
So pre the Premiership final, so we just won Europe the weekend before. On the last training day, or that main training day, which was Wednesday, we did Thursday afternoon and Friday. We did like a big lunch. Like we normally have lunch, COVID taking us, but we had a lunch. It was like a bit of a nicer lunch than normal, and then we did like we got presented their shirts by Rob, and the media team did a really good job of putting together a montage of the lads. Like bits through the years, and then we all chipped in as players and got them some retirement gifts, which was quite nice. Just a little send-off gift.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a nice stuff to do because you put so much into the game in terms of not like obviously physically, but like particularly Chiefs. There's quite a lot of emotion goes. Well, there's loads of emotion goes into it.
Yeah.
We genuinely all get on really well, and we go hard on the pitch because mainly we'll do it for each other.
Yeah.
And I think that's why you'll see scenes like post game of like fair amount of tears. It's just like because we've done all that together. We've done all that by putting it. The more you put in, the more you get out.
Yeah. It's I know it's been well documented, obviously, Exeter's story, and you joined just after a couple of years after they'd got back in. How long have you been there? 8 years.
2012, I joined. So yeah, 8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. I mean, that's a fair old whack at one club, and I think it's been 10 years since they came up from the Championship or so. What was your background before that? Obviously, I know you from UWIC, which is now Cardiff Met, but Exeter lad growing up, and what was your sort of route into rugby before that?
So like I started playing in school and I would have been 14 or 15, and I literally never played rugby, and I was playing in the football team. I was pretty balanced at football, and the school sevens team were like short of a player.
Yeah.
And the PE team was like, "Oh, why don't you give it a go?" And I was like, "Yeah, right, give it a go." Like I've got no gas, but I just loved it straight away. Like bit of contact, didn't know the rules. I was giving my penalties for fun.
Yeah.
Can we play in 15-a-side team next week? And they were short of a hooker. And you can play hooker, you'll be fine. And from there, I literally the following week joined the rugby club down the road at Crediton.
Yeah.
Played like junior rugby there. We had a really good team, junior rugby. So like by the time I got to like that's what we do under 16s and that, we were like winning cups and stuff.
Was it Fisherman's Cup?
No, that's the Devon Cup, isn't it?
Oh yeah, okay. Because
that's senior. That's senior. That is
right. Okay, because that's what I would have played in growing up, or it must have been that just before I come to uni, because I was in Plymouth. So we actually I love them now, but hated Exeter growing up because it was obviously Exeter were in the same league as Plymouth as well.
Right. Yeah.
So it was always that rivalry.
So before I went, so we did. You got that 16, and you could have gone to a rugby school. So I think back then for Exeter, it wasn't Exeter Academy, it was Southwest Academy, and you had to go to Bridge.
Yeah, that's it. So I played for Ivy Bridge Club.
Yeah,
and then half the players were at the sort of with the school as well?
Yeah. So I had the option to do that, and I turned it down. And like part of me was like, oh, if I'd done that with my rugby, I'd kicked on sooner and stuff. But then I always had in the back of my mind that I wanted to go to uni.
Yeah.
So I like stayed in my school in the sixth form there. Stayed playing Colts, and for me, like I put that biggest development down to me is those kind of 5 years from like 16 to 21.
Yeah.
In terms of just playing rugby all the time, because like it's different now. There's academy stuff. There's always stuff going on. Academies are run brilliantly, but like back when I was a bit younger, it's very much you're in the academy. You can't play this game. You can't play that. You can't do this. You can't do that.
Yeah.
So it was very much like we had a brilliant Colts team. Had 2 years of unbelievable rugby, unbelievable drinking.
Yeah.
Many rules get you mingling with them as well.
Yeah.
Loads of drinking rules and drinking games.
Yeah.
And then went up to UWIC, and again it was the same there. Like you get there, you're playing twice a week.
Yeah.
And like I worked my way through the fold there in terms of like freshers, got into the senior training group kind of thing. But even then, you're still playing twice a week.
Yeah.
Still got to go out and enjoy myself, boozing a lot. Which again, it's a really important part of it.
Yeah, it is definitely.
And then from there, I got picked up in my last year by an agent and got hooked up with Doncaster Knights.
Yeah.
I did a year up there. He was fair play to him. It was smart. He was like, look, there's one other hooker there. You go up there, you're going to play every week.
Yeah.
Like, I had interest from Pirates as well, and I can't remember who else. Maybe I think Plymouth, but I'd already done it. Funny enough, before I went to uni, I did a pre-season with Plymouth.
Yeah.
And then, like in my first year at uni, I was coming back and playing a bit for the second team and stuff.
Yeah.
Funny enough, I actually played against Chiefs at Sandy Park, and we got a pants ball going.
So when I was growing up, whenever we had come up that way, either Newton Abbott, Exeter, Clumpton, I can't think of any of the other teams I might have played against, but they'd smash us every time. It was like they were always, well, they were just bigger. They were like men, and we were boys basically. They'd fucking batter us, and there was a couple of kids. There's a lad called Mike Crump, I think. He was like an Exeter lad, and he was like he might have been in the southwest England or whatever. Like he used to fucking run the show, and I used to dread coming up there because I know before we even got on the bus, it's just going to be fucking tough up there. It's a good breeding ground because obviously Plymouth and sort of that area is more Exeter, more football. It was more football, obviously. Yeah. Growing up, but it is a good breeding ground, and I know a lot of those Exeter lads have played for Plymouth and various clubs down there as well, haven't they?
So there's loads of lads like kind of from my age group going through. So if you look at kind of the boys at my age group, you've got like your Mark Lee, Richard Bright went on to play Pirates.
Yeah.
Lewis Patterson was around for a bit. I think he was stint at Launceston, but then like the younger lads coming underneath that, like your Sam Hill. There's so many boys that have come through just like local club rugby around here, and you look now at the Simmons brothers, the Mornwoods, Sam Skinner from Topsham, Ben Moon, Clumpton. There's loads of boys around that have just kind of emerged from club rugby, and I think particularly with what's come out from the RFU, I think it's complete madness. And I understand people's health ultimately is what they've done it for, but it's going to kill off some clubs. It's just like I coach at Sidmouth, and we've had lads. We had lads keen as mustard turning up. We're just down to one session a week just to do training, but it's so important for the top of the game is to make sure the grassroots are supported properly, because that's where everyone starts out. You don't just magically start playing rugby and you're in a professional environment. Yeah, you start out at the bottom and you work your way up, but without that bottom layer there, how are you going to establish and nurture new talent?
No, I agree with that. I think there's definitely something to be said around, like you said, I'm a bit older than you, but growing up, I played senior rugby when I was like 16, 17 maybe. Like, you learn a lot playing in that environment. I mean, I wasn't very good anyway, but you do learn a lot about growing up, the social side of it, actually playing rugby, probably a bit more streetwise maybe than some of these academies that are coming through where it's all about size.
You said about that. So when I put a photo up with the European trip in my head, and credit and put it up because I was my junior club and I played Colts and stuff. I played my first senior game when I was like 17.
Yeah.
They put up the team sheet that day, and I was playing in the back row. Like my foot, because I was too young to play in the front row.
Yeah.
Like again, like you said, like just learning simple things like drinking games and like how to act, how not to be cocky, and like to the established senior players and stuff. You got to earn your stripes almost.
Yeah,
I think that's
definitely.
really important. Like it's kind of stuck with me all the way through.
Yeah.
Particularly when you get to the uni, boys are trying to stitch up with drinking games.
Yeah.
And then you get to senior rugby, boys are trying to stitch up with drinking games. It's like you learn the rules, you're all right, you know what's going on.
Yeah. And I think also going into, obviously every uni is different, but again, going into UWIC, that environment where you were playing Saturday rugby in the senior leagues in, Division 1 or the Championship or Premiership, whatever it was at the time, and then Wednesday Busa or Bucks now, I think it puts you in a good stead for that Saturday, because when you go to Narberth away or Bonamine or wherever it might be, all they want to do is fill in the posh English kids. And actually, and if you've not come through an academy but actually played men's rugby before uni, you're a little bit more used to it. Probably not quite as much, but you are a little bit more used to it.
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely you can tell immediately, like the lads that have come through and have just, well, it's like when they rock up in freshers, head to toe in academy gear from some or Premiership or region or something like that, and the first time they get punched in the face, they don't know what to do. Or they lie on the floor and they get stamped all over, and they're like, "They can't do that."
Yeah, Daddy's not there to save them anymore.
Yeah, exactly. And it's again, it was like some of the scraps we had on those Saturday games were insane, absolutely insane. I remember, was it Ronda away? First carry of the game I had just got 2 forearms, bam, straight across my nose, just pissing out with blood.
Yeah.
And I think that was a game where Rich Carpenter lost his tooth and he was crying about it.
They're the games that make you a man, they are.
Oh, God.
I think it's just straight on the bus. You just straight on the bus to have a can then as well.
Yeah, it would be, yeah. Straight out to walk about.
Straight out that night. If it was Wednesday, straight into... You wouldn't have had... we had... what was it called? Fucking Barisa.
Risa, that was Risa. Risa was my freshers, mate.
Was it? Is your friend? And then it turned into Revs then?
Yeah.
Mate, they were the fucking days, pal. £2 double
vodka. Risa the one below the cinema, it wasn't it?
Yeah. You had 3 floors. You had like a walkabout floor, dance floor, and then R&B downstairs.
Glory days, they were.
They were the fucking days. You had Prism on a Monday night then as well.
Oh, well, I'm not that old, mate. Not Prism. I was Oceana all the way for Monday.
Was Oceana? Oh, it's mate. Yeah, it could have been. Fuck knows. I'm old. I'm past it. What is it about Exeter, mate? Because like I know quite a few lads down at Sarri, so when you see all this in the press and stuff, actually, when you've had an insight into the club and you can see the way the boys are away from the press, the media, just being themselves, you can see that culture, that bond. What is it about Exeter that makes it, what seems from the outside, quite a special club?
I think first of all, like Blackie's quite a good judge of character. Like he won't employ a dickhead. So, for example, like I remember when I was first down here, I was like coming in down for like my mum's birthday or something, and my agent rang, like, "Oh, someone wants to meet you." I was like, "Who's that?" He's like, "Oh, Rob Baxter." I was like, "Oh." So bricking it a bit. I was like in like t-shirt and jeans. He's like, "Oh yeah, just pop in. He just wants to chat." I'm having like a full-blown medical at this point. Jeans and a t-shirt.
Yeah.
He's got me doing like hand cleans and all sorts and dripping with sweat. Tell one this is every 5 minutes, like 3 hours. She sat in the car, and I remember he walked me around to the stadium. He's like showing me, "Oh, this is blah blah blah." And then one of his last questions is like, "So Jack, do you like to have a beer?" And I was like, "Well, when it's time to have a beer, I'll have a beer."
Yeah.
I think I said like I think it was like when it's time to train, you train, but when it's time to have a beer, you have a beer. And he was like, "Good answer, very good answer." I think about that as well. It was all about like enjoy it. You work hard and then you can enjoy it after. It's something like in my first couple of years, they wouldn't care if you went out for a beer as long as you turn up on a Monday ready to go.
Yeah,
it was crack on. And I think first and foremost, don't employ a dickhead. I think if there are people that come with not a bit of arrogance, but like if there are people that are a little bit above the station, the good thing is we get stuck into each other so much, it's soon like royally shot down and
Yeah.
hammered out of you. And, you know, particularly in the past couple of years, we used to have like 2 separate change rooms. So you'd have like your like, what do they call it? It was like I can't remember what it was. It was international change rooms, basically all your superstar players.
Yeah.
That was our one. And then we had the snake pit, basically. So now, like, one big change room. So basically now the stadium's expanded. It's just one big change room.
Yeah.
And like those are the bits like you'll always think about after rugby. It's like just stupid stuff in the change room, whether it's like coming from a session, taking your strap off and just whanging it as hard as you can across the room at each other. Just like stupid stuff like that. But like it genuinely is a culture where boys do get on. You know, I'm older and boring now. I've got kids, so I don't have as much of a social life. But you know, back in the day, pre-kids, it'd always be like a Thursday day off. Everyone go for Nando's. And, you know, now it's changed. Boys go for like breakfast. And like away trips, a class, it's just like so chilled with each other. It's like cards, coffee. It's your normal stuff, but I don't know. I think it's just all there's something underlying there, and it's hard to put it into words what it is. But we just enjoy going very, very hard at things and working for each other.
Baxter seems like I say Baxter as if I've ever met the guy, but he seems like a decent bloke and seems to get the best out of people, like players that necessarily might not have done it elsewhere. And they've either come from nowhere around the Exeter area or come from other places, and they seem to come in and then step above, you know, their levels just increase and increase. And they seem to perform for him. What is it about him?
He's very like level-headed in terms of you. I find it sometimes, not that I argue with him, but if you disagree with him, it's like arguing with the missus. You know how your missus always got an answer, and you're like, and he's in terms of like coaching and things he looks for, you know, he's very detailed on what he does. But the biggest kind of gauge on how we're going as a team is we'll look at like an individual's level of fight. You know, don't get me wrong. If they're signing a player, you know, sometimes they'll get their laptops up in a meeting and they'll put a clip up where you'll see in the background there'll be like 9 games down one side, and that will just be for one player. So it's not as if they'll do it off just watching one performance. They'll watch loads and loads and loads of footage until they get a real feel of how like a player can perform. But I think the big thing they look for is like, you know, how hard someone's prepared to go. Yeah. In terms of whether it's, you know, making a tackle and getting up to affect the clear out, or whether it's carrying a ball and having extra leg drive just to make a little bit of difference. But I think that's where they can kind of gauge someone's, whether it be potential, whether they have had, and, you know, within our game, our kind of structures and plays and stuff, they're there as a pattern, but they only work when the individual goes harder than them. Yeah. And it kind of gives them a bit of freedom to go, as in like, go, you know exactly what you're doing, go as hard as you can. Yeah. I've seen he very rarely sort of outs people or outs the team after the games, even if you don't perform well. Kind of just goes, we just didn't play the way we normally play, so I'll make sure that we put in place whatever it is so the boys just go and have fun again. And they perform best when they're having fun. And a lot of people, I think, might not be used to that. You know, some coaches or whatever be like, oh, this person, that person. Yeah, a little bit. And it doesn't seem to be like that there. It's kind of, they just didn't enjoy themselves today for whatever reason. I'll go and fix it. And it might be different behind the scenes, but it's refreshing to see that from the outside. Yeah, he always, particularly to the media as well, he'll like defend boys. Yeah, and that way is if you're under heat from a player, you know you've not performed, but you know your director of rugby stood there and not putting a blame on an individual, then it almost like rebuilds your confidence a tiny bit. Don't get me wrong, as soon as we have a review in the week, if it's not a coach kind of saying it directly, there'll be enough clips of you, and then you'll get a few head turns in the meeting. Things like minutes, meetings finish, you back in the change room. Yeah. Always in your grill, but in a way that's kind of the best way to do it, like having it from your peers. Yeah. But it's always like anything we do, it'll always be like a work on, then a positive. So there's always like, you'll always see the best side of it. Yeah. Who in that change room's good value for banter and getting stuck into people, and who's probably not so good at taking it? God, we've had so many over the years. What current, like in the change room? Yeah. jug it out. Dickie's one who just like has no filter. So he's just like, he'll be if he'll be so loud and so in boys' grills, he'll just like say what's on his head. So if one of the young lads is shit, he'll be like, you fucking shit today, mate. And like he'll say it like, and the lads are like, is he being funny or he's
yeah, can't read him.
Oh, he's different level. Then our big characters like Harry Williams and Herbs, they'll chuck it around. Johnny Hill, he's always valued for money. Who doesn't take it well? Well, to be fair, there's a lot of lads that don't take it well. They'll dish it out and can't take it.
Yeah.
Who's notorious one that doesn't take it well? I can't even think right now. I can't think. I'll pass on that.
That's all right. Yeah, don't want to chuck anyone under the bus. Good media answer that is. That's fine. What have you been like? What's your journey been like then? Because obviously, coming to the club, like you said, having played a bit of uni, went to Doncaster for a year, come in when they're back in the Premiership. So it's a step up for you. You know, you've kind of gone from university to step up within 2 seasons. How did you find that? And, you know, are you the sort of type that's quite quiet, just leads by example? Are you quite vocal? Like, how did you fit into that whole ethos?
So first of all, I did like the full pre-season, and admittedly, like that was the first thing. Like in the off season leading up to it, we got sent out like training programs, and they were savage. Like I was fat by the time I left uni. I was overweight. I wasn't fit.
Yeah.
Didn't really improve my fitness at Donny, to be fair. And then I went fairly hard at it, and I still, you know, improved it more over the years. But I think the hardest thing for me was the pace of the game. Like not so much keeping up with it. Don't get me wrong, it was hard work and it was a bloke, so it wasn't that fit, but it was more the speed of thought.
Okay.
I wasn't used to that, like, speed of thought of everything.
Yeah.
And as well, like, because everything was going so fast, like it took me a while to get the calls in. Like I'm amazed when some lads come in straight away and pick up our systems and calls.
Yeah.
You know, so you've been in a professional environment. So like I did full pre-season, had like a couple of minutes in a few pre-season games, and then I got loaned out to Cornish Pirates.
Okay.
So to and fro back to Cornish Pirates for a bit, which was great. I actually really enjoyed going down there. I was getting loads of minutes.
Yeah.
I was a lot fitter than what I was at Donny. Actually, my first game down at Pirates, the first league game, we played up at Donny.
Okay.
You know, and that was definitely pleasing. I think just that, because the step up from Donny to Chiefs is just like everything's just so much more. What's the word? Like, it's more professional, to be fair.
Yeah, just sharper and slicker.
Yeah, exactly, and it can only boost you up as a player.
Yeah.
And then I think I got kind of called back into the squad. I come back in for like LB Cup games and stuff like that. Around Christmas time, I think it was. And then there was a couple injuries to a few hookers, and before I know it, I was like back in this travelling reserve, and then I was back in on the bench, and I think I made my debut like Saints at home, and then I played a European. I played Clermont away, came on his back row.
That's a baptism of fire, that is, out the Stade Michelin.
Like 40, 50 points. Wesley Fofana was untouchable that game, couldn't get near him. But like the within those kind of couple of games, the more I played, the more confident I got, and I was getting more and more sure. Like I was more sure of the calls, and then within that, I'm quite a vocal player when I play anyway.
Yeah.
And yeah, it kind of grew from there. Really, I think the more I played, the more confident I got, and before I knew it, I was getting towards that end of that season. I ended up then getting selected to start. You know, hopefully by merit.
Yeah.
I started the last kind of 10 games of that season, and then it just went on from there. And I think as soon as I was confident with the calls and the systems and stuff and how we played, I'm a vocal player on the pitch. And it's just kind of pushed on from there really. And then we had Dean Munn come in for a bit, and I think I was asked to be captain when he missed the start of the season through injury.
Yeah.
I must have done something right, because after he left, I got asked to be club captain, which is quite nice.
What's that transition like from one of the lads, vocal, having a laugh, working hard still, to you're going to run the ship now?
It was difficult. Like I'll admit, I found it difficult at first, because I was like 25, and there were some huge international lads.
Yeah.
way more senior than me ahead of me. Of course, lads like ripped the piss into me straight away, you know.
Yeah.
What was it Kerry Sweeney said when he got announced?
Oh, he's a boy enough.
Oh, he said he had a cracking night. I can't remember what it was. Oh, something like, you couldn't lead your dick to your own ass or something like that. So yeah, like names like that. Like, and we used to do, well, I bought in a thing like years ago, and it's still very much part of the team now, in terms of like when we have players meetings, I bought in something a little bit fun in terms of like player punishments and stuff.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's evolved so much from now. And now we have like people that run that stuff. But at first, because I bought it in, I was running it, and I realised after a couple of weeks I can't do both. I can't be like, you know, establish like the principles of what we go about and do the fun stuff. So I had to like elect someone else to do it. But I found over the years, again, it's more confidence, knowing when to say things, knowing when not to say things. And also as well, the younger lads coming through, you can almost, the more responsibilities you give to lads, the more they grow as well.
Yeah.
It was just like that balance of, you know, knowing when to say stuff, knowing when not to say stuff, and like not over talking. And that's when it's learned. Some people find it natural. I don't know, maybe I overthought stuff sometimes, and don't get me wrong, I probably said the wrong stuff a lot of the time, but
yeah,
I like to think it's been fairly decent since I have had the club captaincy.
Yeah, well, you're still there, so you must be doing something right, pal.
Yeah.
You're going in the right direction, eh? Was it your first season as captain that you got to the Prem final, the first Prem final?
Yeah, so that was the one where because the previous season where it was Mumsy's last year, we finished 5th. On the last game of the season, Sarries kept us into 4th place because they had like a bigger points difference. They beat London Welsh away in like the last 20 minutes and scored like 3 tries.
Yeah.
And yeah, so first season was when we beat Wasps. We got to our first semi-final, Wasps at home.
Yeah.
And then Sarries in the first final. But we just never turned up in the first half. The problem with that was, you know, you look back now, when the full-time whistle went, I think it was like a penalty try right at the end of the game. You know, and there's photos of us like absolutely buzzing, like so pumped. And I think the problem was we were so over the moon to be in the final. Like we celebrated so much kind of emotionally when that full-time whistle went in the semi-final that we just weren't there for the first 40 minutes of the final. Yeah, it was such a big occasion, and we were almost like pleased to be there. It wasn't until the last 40 when we pulled our finger out. I think we got back within 3 points. I think I scored and then Nosey scored. We were like back within 3 points. And then they scored a try right at the end to pull away. But you know, we definitely learned from that. And you know, that's why the next year going all the way, and I think the next year was the one where we beat Sarries in the semi-final. Yeah. And that was insane. Like scoring that maul at the end, and you know, the almost like the electricity in Sandy Park. I've never experienced anything like that. It was ridiculous. But then I remember like there was a thing of Baxter coming around, just being like, right, everyone just calm down. We've been here before. Got it at the last minute. So yeah, and then going and winning it was pretty decent. What
sort of person and what sort of team are the guys? You know, are you sort of someone who feels the lows a lot, but then also celebrates the highs massively, or do you just try and sort of keep it plateaued where you can?
No, I'm hit and miss. Like sometimes I can throw my toys out the pram. I won't so much do it in front of the boys. You know, if we have to say something at the end of the game, never really be too over the top at the end of the game, because it's easy when your emotions are going all over the place. You've got to kind of look at it technically and how you can put it right in the next week. But then if and when I get home, I'll be sulky with, you know, sulky kid and not eating my food and things like that.
That's gonna slap you out of the life.
Yeah, and I definitely sometimes over celebrate the wins and get too giddy, but it's kind of come with the more successful we've got, the more you've got to be able to quickly push that reset and always think about next week and how you can get better next week and how you can improve and how you can challenge another team. And that's kind of the balance that's changed in my time at the club. It's like when I first came, it was all about, you know, learn from the experience, enjoy the experience. Whereas now it's very much like, right, we're successful, enjoy yourself, but make sure you recover properly. Make sure, you know, if you've got any injuries, you let us know now or first thing tomorrow morning, and you are ready to train maximally on a Monday. So it's kind of, in terms of what I do, it's, again, as we've got more successful, it's definitely been a case of I've got to be a little bit more level-headed. But don't get me wrong, when we win a final, I'll lose my mind.
Go missing for 3 days, like I would be. Fucking hell, I'd end up in Vegas or something, like 100%.
Yeah, my missus hated me.
Hey, look, you're still in the house, so it can't be that bad, mate.
So I had to do a. So we had, when was the final? Saturday. So we had Saturday night bus trip, Sunday all day, and then Monday morning I had a couple. Went and tidied up the social we had, and then I had to do a TV appearance in the afternoon, for like 6 o'clock news, wherever it was. So I did that. Like, luckily the media guy texted me today, like, you can't turn up to this drunk, please don't be drunk. So I didn't get too carried away in the day.
Yeah.
When I was finishing, a few of the boys text like, "Oh, we're out. You coming?" I was like, "Oh no." So I rang back like, "Yeah, so I'm just gonna go meet the boys quickly." Just hung up on me straight away. I was like, "Oh god." Oh no.
In the doghouse straight away, like.
Yeah, instant.
Worth it though, fucking worth it, pal.
Double jams.
Exactly, mate. It's weird because I was looking at your, obviously the last couple of years, you came second but beat Wasps, but then you came first sort of couple of years in a row and then lost to Surrey. It's like, what's your mindset when you come top of the league but then still have to go through that playoff system compared to when you're second and you're trying to get to the top?
Yeah, to be fair, we've always kind of said it doesn't, as long as you get top two and you get that home semi-final advantage, it doesn't matter as much. But it's just, ultimately, it's nice to feel like you finished top of the pile.
Yeah.
You know, in terms of those finals, they were just, I think one of the years, like we genuinely, I think we changed it up a bit going into the final, and we didn't, like, we changed our tactics a bit and we didn't fully commit to it.
Yeah.
And then boys saying, "Oh, it didn't really work" and stuff. But because we didn't fully commit to it, you can't really say that it didn't work.
Yeah.
You know, the hardest one for me was probably last year's final, the 2019 one.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first one I started as well. You know, and I was properly gutted after that because, you know, we lost it by 3 points? And we were 14 points, whatever it was, up. You know, and that was, I think I came off just as we got that lead. And I was so gutted in that game because, you know, look at the team they had was insane.
Yeah.
The bench was like full of internationals.
Yeah.
And it was such small differences in that game that ultimately got them over the line. You got to give them credit, like, fair play to them. Coming back from that scoreline was insane, but it definitely hurt.
Is there, I know obviously Tony Rowan is well documented, so I'm not here to slag Saracens or players or anything like that. But did you, maybe not bitterness, but was there something after the last couple of years that this year you were not going to give it up? You know, was it fuel or was it done now? They've had what's ever happened to them this season happen.
The issue is, like, they got a lot of hate, and you can't blame the players at all.
No,
like, not one bit. You can't blame players at all. Like, you're off for the contract. You're like, yeah, I'll sign that.
Yeah, like, right. Yeah,
but it depends. Like, some boys took it differently. Some boys were like, "Oh, it's bullshit. They've been cheating."
Yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And some boys like, they should be stripped of the titles. It's like different people take it different ways. I think the one that really riled the boys up was, like, obviously they beat us last year's final, and then the home game we had at Christmas this year. You know, that was heat, and I think Harry Williams came on the pitch and got a red card because he was on the bench, and there was a bit of handbags on the sideline and that.
Yeah.
You know, and we were genuinely buzzing to beat him on that. And I think there was, like, chat on the pitch going on, like, "Oh, you can't do it in the final, you bunch of chokers," and stuff like that. There was like some of that. It's just like, that's stinky chat. You don't around. That just makes boys instantly hate you and stuff. It's just, don't get me wrong, like, some those lads are probably top blokes. I've never been out for a beer with them, but it's a weird one because you just think like, what if that was even playing fields? You know, I've played in 5 Prem finals with 2 wins. Could I have been sat here with a different exactly, well, a different tally? One of the finals were a bit far behind, but you know, it's certainly a different tally above my head because overall my record at Twickenham is rubbish. I think we played 3 university finals, lost all 3. And then I played big game, whatever it was, against Harlequins, lost that.
Yeah.
And then out of the 5 Premiership finals, I've won 2. So at least I've broken the curse. I've won at least once, which is nice.
Good man. Talking of Twickenham, have you ever had sort of England chats and close to call-ups and then in squads and stuff? Or so obviously Luke Cowan-Dickey sort of come through and he's in the squad. What's your journey been like with that?
So last year I had I mean, it was nothing. I didn't get any phone calls from anyone or anything, but I had the one of the conditioners coming down. Like, took my skinnies a couple of times, and all that stuff. And then post the final as well, I had like the England Dutchman to come over and like introduce themselves to me. And that's about as far as it got me, to be honest with you. You know, there was maybe a hint of it, but I never got a phone call, never got anything like that. And you know, this year with me doing my arm pretty badly twice, I put myself out of the running for that, because ultimately you got to be starting at your club if you want any sort of chance of having it.
Yeah. How do you sort of manage your emotion with that then? Club captain, but don't play or don't start every game. Sorry. How do you make sure that you're still a good guy for the team, a good guy for the squad, and don't let your toys get out of the pram in that respect?
It's a difficult one because like last year I kind of earned my shirt. You know, it was Luke on the bench a lot last year, and then even through to the start of this year, before I did my arm, I was starting as well.
Yeah.
But it's just, you kind of, from my experience, you know when things need to be said, you know when things aren't right. So if like a few too many balls go down, something like that, it's not like a bollocking, but we say it a lot with it amongst the players. Like if someone says something to you on a training pitch, don't take it personally. That's not a personal attack. Calling you a dick. It's making sure you switch on a bit more so training's better, so everything can be sharper, everything can be crisper.
Yeah.
It's just making sure, like, because of the experience of it, I know when we're on the ball, I know when we're training well, I know when the warm-up's going well. Like I said earlier, I'm a bit of a vocal player anyway, and that's not, you know, I'm never looking to step on the whoever's leading the boys that day. I'm never looking to step on their toes at all.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's just finding a balance. You know, ultimately, I want to be starting. You know, no one wants to sit on the bench.
Of course.
And yeah, you know, I've got a bit of an opportunity, hopefully, going into next season to try and find my way back into the starting lineup.
It's it must be like, so I assume you and Luke get on. You know, you and Dickie get on like a house on fire, and you know, decent mates. But do you ever? Is there any sort of there must be niggle at times, just in, you know, if you're going against each other, vying for places, even if it's not meant. Just now and again, a little.
That's the thing that I've noticed in my time at the club is when I first joined. So get this, in my first ever, we did like a Monday game session, like small-sided games.
Yeah.
Our turnover, there's like 2 pitches or like we split pitch in half, 2 teams up here, 2 teams on the bottom.
Yeah.
I turned around and like the 2 senior hookers are just full on fighting in the middle of a touch. What the hell's that about? There's genuinely like, there's no poison, there's no nothing, there's no like
class
snakiness amongst the boys. Like we say it a lot, like we're all in this together. Like we all want to achieve things together. It's not just like 15 on the field or the 23 that's involved. It's the whole team. Like without the whole team there, training wouldn't be as good because you wouldn't have good opposition to train against. So if the boys you're training against don't go hard, you're not going to be prepped to go hard at the weekend. And that's kind of been a big driver for probably since we've been getting in finals, to be fair, probably for like the last 5 years. Yeah. Like, you don't take things personally. You want to achieve things together. And like, there's never been any of that between me and Dickie. It's like genuinely been like, it's always been like, oh, what a mate, you know, your class. And like, he's always like, if he's blowing or something, he'll be like looking over to the bench and stuff like that. So like, we do have like we live next door. He's literally next door. So we get on really well. But that's not the same between me and Luke. That's the same between like all the hookers there now. We're going really well, and that's not just hookers. Like, I'd say that maybe that's the thing about Chiefs. Maybe we like genuinely do get on like that. Like we want to achieve things, and that's done as a club.
What's obviously after the last two finals, you look at the Simmons brothers, be fucking unbelievable, and then you look at the England squad, and like I'm not saying there's people in the England squad that should be there because the people there, abundance of back row, they're unbelievable. But you look at these two players, you're like, fuck me, they've had a good season.
Oh, what's European Player of the Year? Yeah, it's just average, isn't it?
I know, like, do you know what I mean? But then England have got this habit of not picking that player. Armitage, Nick Bendon and Wilco, when they all went abroad.
Don Armand, when he was...
Don Armand, mate, yeah.
The year we won it, he was literally absolutely flying, but he got mentioned so much in the media. I don't know. Look, international's way beyond me. I'm nowhere near that, so I probably don't have the right to be opinionated on it. But
how do you pick those players back up, though, in that club environment?
You don't need to. They stand up and perform. That's the thing that, like, from my opinion, you get international recognition when you're consistently performing for your club. You're standing up for your club. You're winning back-to-back man of the matches and all this.
Yeah.
You're scoring tries. You're contributing heavily to every game. You're being consistent, and that's the thing. Like, so many lads in our squad are doing that. So many lads, and again, I'm biased, but I find it mad that more boys aren't involved. And I was genuinely buzzing for Johnny Hill.
Yeah.
I was, he's had a phenomenal season. He's been, from when he joined as a tiny P-head with giant shoulders, and he's filled into his body a bit. Just seeing how much he's progressed, and he's put on a lot of sides of a lockdown, and he started the season with a bang, scoring a ridiculous try, and he's just been improving ever since. So that bloke, fair play to him. It's terrific to see. I was so buzzing for him.
Yeah, good shift tonight as well, to be fair to him. So good on him. What was lockdown like for you, pal? Obviously, season's split in half and it's disrupted and caused all sorts of different problems for different people, and the Saracen stuff was going on as well and all that. What was that sort of 4 to 6 months like?
To be fair, for me, it saved my season.
Yeah.
I bust my arm in the Glasgow Heineken Cup game.
Yeah.
Broke my ribs. And then going through rehab, I was returning to pitch sessions, and I was training for like the Harlequins away game. Not to be involved, just like full week of training. And I went and did my return to contact stuff and literally doing bag work. The guy was in the bag, as I hit him, his elbow went bam in the exact same place where I broke it, and I broke it again. I was like, and I was kind of breaking it a bit, and it wasn't like all the way breakthrough, but like where the fibers started to heal, I just like pissed off basically. So in terms of like healing that, the specialist was like, well, you've got, I think he said 3 ways in terms of you can start again, put it in cast, go through all those weeks of muscle wastage and basically depression because you can't do anything. You can get it pinned, and then you've got the whole scenario of the bone is weaker around either side of the pin, and it's like Billy Vanapola touch wood, he's fine with it now, but like he had a lot of problem with his, and he's like, you can just do a load of weights. It's like any force you can get through that bone, it'll force it to heal. And you cause like microtraumas in the bone. So literally, I was so lucky in terms of where I live. I've got Nosey on one side and Dickie on the other. And we just went bam, lockdown as this street. Nobody leaves the street, so we did like food deliveries. We did not leave the street. And we did like food deliveries in, and Nosey had just built a garage and he converted it into a gym because he's like Mr. Red Bull, got loads of stuff set down. That's the best nick I've been in years. If not ever.
Tops off.
Honestly, the sessions we were doing was ridiculous. And I'm not talking just like beach sessions. We were doing like loads of legs. So we're doing like 3-4 watt bike sessions a week. Genuinely, it was exactly what I needed for my arm. So like, by the time I got back into the club and the doctor went to check me, they're like, I had a bit of, I'm deflated now. I've literally not trained. The doctor looked at me and was like, I don't need to check out, you'll be fine. For me, and it was nice as well because ultimately, like, I'm one of those people, like, I'll do a savage session and I'll hate it. I'll hate savage sessions, but that feeling you get after, like, that was I've got it done. I've got it in the bank. So it gave us like a nice routine as well. Like I'd go and train in the morning, come back, have some breakfast, go for a walk with the family, come back, play with the girls, put the youngest down, and go and do weights. Come back, and I just creature of habit. Like you think about professional road players live by a weekly schedule. I had my little schedule set out for a while, and it was nice weather as well. Made it even more better.
Class. That's good. That is. 'Cause I've heard some people talk about feeling isolated and obviously struggling, and you have the things around sort of mental health and stuff like that. So it sounds like you've enjoyed it as much as you can, I suppose.
Yeah, I was just so fortunate where I live. So fortunate. But it got to the point where the day before lockdown, the club was like, right, take what weights you can, but we got to share amongst the squad. At first we were like a couple dumbbells and I don't know what else I had, and I was like, did a session with that. I was like, well, this is going to get tedious after about 3 days. So thank God, Nosey got his gym sorted, and we did some pretty hard sessions in it.
Big up Red Bull, like.
Sort of.
What's you mentioned a couple of times about sort of the lows and things kind of hit you hard and you feel it a bit personally. What do you do personally for yourself when, I don't know, there might be a shit on social media about Exeter, or you've lost the final, or personally you might have had a bad game or your injuries? How do you go from being in a bit of a mood, down, whatever that might be, into right, back on the road now, this is the next step into becoming better than I was before?
It's tough. Like I've had a few games I played where I've literally come off myself being like, what have I done? Absolutely terrible. Probably like staring at your toes, sulking about it for ages. It's different. Like when you're in season, it's different. You've almost got to like for me, I find I've got to completely take myself away from it. For like the following day, I'll try not to watch anything. I'll try to just enjoy being with the kids and the missus, and do something completely away from rugby. And then on the Monday, you have to take it on the chin. When you've done crap, you'll sit in a forwards meeting and watch yourself throwing absolute custard pies, doing stupid stuff, and you're like. But the important thing is that you do take it as a learn. You don't just take it as like I said, you don't take it as an attack. You take it as, this is what you've got to do better. This is how you can improve. And then the big thing is like you then go in. We always do like small-sided games on a Monday, and in a way that's the best way to do it, because A, it gets you moving, but B, you can go out and like you got a bit more space, you got a bit more ball in hand time, but you can have a bit more of a laugh with it, and it's a bit less pressure compared to how the sessions build up and ramp up through the week. And I've just got to think you got to take it on the chin, and just training with the lads in a good environment automatically puts a smile on your face, because all it takes is 3 minutes before someone does something stupid and you can start taking the piss out of them. Like a big loss in a final it's almost the same kind of thing, apart from just a little bit more extended. So I remember last year's final, obviously you got to have a big blow at the end of the season, because it's not end of the season. And it was the same then. We had like a couple of days away, just missus and kids, just get rid of it. And in a way, that kind of period of not doing anything almost then spurs you on and energizes you to be like, right, let's get training again. Like, I've had it now. I've done literally nothing for a week. Haven't even sweated out the beers. And now I'm getting to the point where I like getting like itchy feet. Like I feel like I need to be training. I'm getting a bug. Like I'm one of those people that like, I feel like doing a good session, I automatically feel like I've been productive with my day. I've got it now. What's the time now? Like 8:30, and I'm like, I haven't trained today. Should have trained today.
I know what you mean.
So I feel like maybe it's the mental side, just having that little bit of a break, even if in a short period it's a day, or whether like you've had a whole season, you have that week or so. It just refreshes you. It just it encourages you to get back going. And after a 1 day turnaround, you got the boys, but after a long turnaround, just not doing anything, you physically you want to get going again and get back into it.
It's that hunger, I suppose, comes back. And how do we get better? What is the future look like for you? What does the future look like for Exeter? What's the next couple of years? Because you've kind of gone from sort of, I suppose, low level under the radar squad, and now you've got players like Slady and that, which are homegrown, but also your Stuart Hoggs and people like that. What's the future for you guys after winning 2 titles in a season.
Well, it's the drinking, isn't it? You always get told you can't double a double, but I think from now on you can always double a double.
Yes. That'd be unbelievable. No one's done it, so that would be fucking unbelievable.
Who's it? Leicester did it, didn't they?
Oh, did they?
I think
Europe
Leicester
as
did
well.
it. Like 2001, 2002, maybe. I could be wrong.
No, they were unbelievable then. So
yeah, exactly.
Right.
But like, well, I mean, first of all, we got a European draw, and you're like, brilliant.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, tasty.
But look, it's a challenge there for us. Like, if we really want to go after it, we've shown we can do it. It's just about realizing how much it took from the lads and trying to get that much into each other, going into training and going into games again. Because that was the big learn going from the year we won it in the Prem to the next final. Is that was the big driver of making sure we realised, like, how much you have to put into, a training session on a Wednesday when it's pissing down the rain and blowing a hoolie. Like, they're the important sessions, or like an away trip to a team that's like bottom of the league. They're the important games. They all add up.
Yeah. You'll have Newcastle on a Friday night now next season, which is all well good playing in the rain and the pissing cold, but then that is a decent bus trip on the way home as well.
Well, we've flown in the past couple of years. It'll have to be a bus this year, won't it? But it's making sure that the boys realise what it actually takes, and like reflecting on what we've done. It's the realisation of the physical and the emotional energy you got to put into things. And, as far as going forward counts, I think the hunger from the whole squad is that, it filters down from the coaching staff and all the players want it as well. We want to keep on achieving things. We don't want to be a one-hit wonder. Yeah. I think we'd like to think we've shown that from being in 5 Prem finals, but from what's coming through, there's plenty more to come.
Yeah, I mean, Europe, obviously, you want to try and if you can go back to back in Europe as well, that's unbelievable. Because I don't know, I wouldn't know which one's harder to win, but it seems like the pressure is ramped up on those Heineken Cup games, Champions Cup games.
So obviously in Prem, you've got to make top 4, and then you've given yourself an opportunity.
Yeah.
Whereas Europe, you think Europe, particularly how like the regional sides do it in terms of like some of those players will play more Heineken Cup games than they will league games.
Yeah, of course.
Literally, they are there just for Heineken Cup. That is their be-all and end-all. We've got a few lads like Ian Whitten's come from Ulster. He joined me at the same time. And like you saying there, like those clubs, literally, they live for Heineken Cup. That's all they are there for. Whereas we've got continuous hard competition. So don't get me wrong, they're both equally hard, but Europe for me is that stand-up competition because it's got the best teams in all of Europe.
Yeah, you got a bit of leeway, I suppose, with that top 4 in the Prem.
That tiny bit of wiggle room, but it makes all the difference.
Yeah, fair play to you. Have you obviously been there a while now? Would you ever want to play abroad, maybe, if you're coming towards the end and fancy a stint away? Or
I've never really kind of looked that far ahead, to be honest with you. I think it's because I've genuinely enjoyed so much of my time there.
Yeah.
It's very rare you see players move on their own accord.
Very
rare. And you'd always get lads being like, oh, well, I could go and earn this much more elsewhere. Well, what's the price you pay for happiness? What's the price you pay for happiness, isn't it? You probably get less money staying at Chiefs, but then you get to achieve things. You get to play with your mates. For me, I've got family ties.
Yeah.
No, ultimately, I'd never say never. Don't get me wrong. If an opportunity came up and it's somewhere I've always wanted to go or something like that, I would always look into it. At the end of the day, you've only got a short career, and it's ultimately, as sad as it is to say, it's a business, rugby.
Yeah, of course.
You pour your heart and soul and emotion into it, but you are a bag of meat at the end of the day. You are dispensable. They can bring someone else new, and they can upgrade the model. They can they can change you for someone else fresh and fit and young. So you have got to look after yourself as much as you pour emotion into it and you give everything. You have got to think about the future in terms of come, how old am I now? Come like 5 years or so, those paychecks aren't going to be coming in. Well, I'm going to cling on for as long as I can. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Never say never on that one. Don't know.
Interesting, mate. Hey, look, I appreciate I'm taking up your Saturday night here. So thank you so much for coming on, pal. It's been fascinating to get a bit of an insight into you, but also the club, and especially off the back of the success deserved over the last, like I said, 5-6 years, where you have been competing at the top and maybe not quite had the roll of the dice, shall we say, with certain circumstances. So congratulations, mate. Thanks for coming on, and I really appreciate it. Hopefully, at some point, I enjoy a night out in Exeter, mate. I came down. Kath Smith's 30th, and I came down for a night, and it took me back to my days when I was 18, pal. Was it Timepiece we were in?
Timepiece, good,
mate, brilliant. I was like, I fucking missed Exeter. I used to enjoy it because I was from Plymouth was chavvy, and Exeter was all the posh people, all the posh girls.
Exeter's much better now than Plymouth, but you can see when I got to Cardiff now why I lost my mind.
Yeah, 100%, mate, 100%. Hey, look. Thanks, Corval. Hopefully we can have a beer at some point over the next year when we're allowed back in and everything gets back to normal. Just a big thanks quickly to Tiny Rebel Brewery for providing beers every episode. Big thanks to everyone that downloads, subscribes, rates and reviews. Any feedback, good and bad, let us know. Really appreciate it. We've got episode 50 coming up next week, so look out on Instagram for a couple of prizes that are coming up. A couple of big ones coming. And we'll catch you next week. Jack, thank you very much, mate.
Cheers,
absolute
mate.
pleasure. You look after yourself, look after your family, and look forward to seeing you next season, mate.
Catch you later, mate.
Cheers, boy. Take care. Ciao.